All right, hey Anthony, I've got a question for you. We've got an officer from Indiana who wants to know about LEOSA. He's asking, does LEOSA apply to reserve deputies or reserve officers? Some states will call them auxiliary or part or volunteer, but does LEOSA apply to reserve and auxiliary officers?
All right, I think in a nutshell, the answer is yes, but I'm going to explain to you where the confusion comes from. The confusion comes from the actual LEOSA language itself. Now, first of all, what is LEOSA? LEOSA is the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. It was passed by George Bush and it's been amended at least once, a major amendment that did incredible things to improve it. But LEOSA was passed after 9/11 to basically give another, the capability of officers traveling to other states to give them the authority to carry concealed and help protect our nation. I mean, that's kind of part of the reason why we got LEOSA. So, in a nutshell, if you qualify under LEOSA, then if you're an officer in, let's say, you're a retired officer from Virginia, it applies to retired officers and current. But let's say you are a current officer in Virginia, you could carry your concealed weapon, concealed, not open carry, in California, D.C., and New York, in Maryland and Hawaii, some of the toughest places on earth to carry concealed, right? Lawfully. So, because federal law exempts you from state restrictions, you were allowed to carry that gun under federal law. So, all right, here is the problem though, okay? So, 926B, and it says carrying a concealed firearm by qualified law enforcement officers. I'm not going to read the whole thing, Zach, but it says this: notwithstanding, right? So regardless, right, of any other provision of the law of any state or any political subdivision thereof, an individual who is a qualified law enforcement officer and has the proper identification as a police officer may carry concealed in any state. Okay, now it says that as used in this section, the term qualified law enforcement officer means an employee of a government agency who, and I'm going to read some of these things real quick, okay? There's 6 factors. So it means an employee of a government agency who is authorized by law to investigate, detect, prevent crime, right? It also
Okay.
includes law enforcement officers under the Military Justice Code or Uniform Code of Military Justice. Is authorized by the agency to carry a firearm. So far, that's right. So does a reserve have the authority to enforce the law? Yes. Do they have the authority to carry a gun by their agency? Yes. Most of them do. It is not the subject of any disciplinary action by the agency which could result in termination, right, or suspension. Meets the standards, if any, to qualify with the firearm. So they're current on their qual. Is not under the influence and is not prohibited by federal law to possess a firearm. So you see what the tricky part is there. It's that word employee, right?
Employee. Yep,
So,
and I just looked it up. Yep, employee
yep.
definition.
So half say employee is an employee, right? Is the reserve an employee? They're not getting a paycheck. What's your intuition say?
So intuition was they're not employees because they're not, like you said, they're not paid for their services. But that's just one definition. There's another one to make employ. The verb is to make use of.
There you go.
So if
The,
my agency makes use of me to do their function. So yeah,
it,
it's going to be employee. It's going to be the key.
Now, the other thing, Zach, the one thing that's what I agree to. The employee is to use the services of, right?
Okay.
Look, they don't get a retirement, they don't get an hourly wage. Most of them, right? That's fine. They're volunteers, but they are employed in a literal sense, a legal sense by that agency. They're going to have all the liability if they crash that patrol car. If they are going to be, an employee for liability purposes. But the other thing is that remember there was I told you there was a big revamp of the law in, I don't know, man, 2014 or something like that. But one of the things that the Congress did, there used to be a requirement that to be able to possess this firearm, you had to have a pension.
Hmm.
Well, that I think that I think they originally did mean only employees. Only employees. I'm sorry, not employees. Only full time
Hey,
officers, right, have pensions, right?
yeah.
But they removed that. Now you do. They removed that pension requirement, right? Maybe for various other reasons. But when they removed it, I think that they sent a very clear signal that they wanted to include the reserves because they don't get pensions. And so once they remove that last hurdle, we're good to go. Now,
Yeah.
also, my opinion on this, I got to tell you, look, let me just make this clear, okay, before we move over, okay, move on. I'm not, we're Zach and I are not your attorney, okay, and you just have to know that, you can't just if you get pulled over by a cop in Illinois, in Chicago, who happens to hate guns besides the one on his hip, and he knows that you're a reserve and you got the credentials and it says police reserve on there, and he thinks he knows what the law is, and he arrests you for a felony because he doesn't think you qualify because you're not an employee to his definition. I can't help you. Okay. I just want to make sure that, unfortunately, I wish it wasn't this way, but there are some cops out there that don't understand this law, or they disagree with it. Maybe they're few, but I have met a few. So I just want you got to, you have to feel good about what you're doing here. And look, I can only tell you what I would do, and Zach would, if I was reserve, I believe the law covers me. However, there's also a good support for our position here, and it actually is the NRA. So on the NRA website, and if you go to NRA, .org, and you look up LEOSA, there's an FAQ there. Okay, Zach, and here's what it says. It says, I meet all the requirements contained in the statute, but I'm a reserve officer. Do I qualify? And according to the NRA, which, you can have your opinions about them, but it's on their website and it's there for everybody to read. It says that it says as long as the individual meets all of the requirements of the statute, which is those things I just said, right? Qualified, not under the influence. It makes no difference if they are active or reserve, and they would be qualified to carry under LEOSA. So that's our interpretation.
Mhm.
That's NRA's interpretation. So, that's what I would do if you're watching this and you care about this topic. Go to the NRA website and print that out, right? And carry that with you. Carry with you, the actual, the law. Carry
Mhm.
with you what NRA is saying about the law, right? And just, let a cop know that there's any uncertainty here, submit it to the DA, and we'll go from there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
let them obviously don't take a freaking off-duty reserve to jail just because you're, and by the way, you're playing with fire, because there is a case out of DC that says LEOSA is a civil right. You actually
Hmm.
can sue under 1983 if you violate a person's LEOSA rights, if you arrest them when they're not supposed to be arrested, and so forth.
Mhm.
This lawsuit concerned corrections officers who were getting jammed up by DC for having guns off duty, and they qualified under LEOSA, and the court held that they can move forward on their civil rights claim against the police department or whoever it was. All right. Well, there
Yep.
you go. So that's my answer. Hopefully that helps. Carry this documentation with you. In fact, as a retiree, when I carry on the LEOSA, I actually carry, I have a copy of the law with me just in case there is some officer out there that is not up to speed on LEOSA. It can be a little confusing. All right.
Sounds good. Great information, Anthony. Great
All right.
information.
All right. I appreciate it. All right. Until next time, my friends. Stay safe.
Take care.